go out in the field and practice it and have folks sign up to go out and then practice that stuff and then come back at another later time to do feedback review.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's good. And then if you guys like what you hear and see any other the presentations I do, we can do that. I mean, if I'm in the area, I can be there teaching you guys, or I can give you assignment and folks can go out and then we can have everyone submit an image and we can go have another Zoom and go through them. So it's kind of a fun way to do things. So
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Many moons ago, the club did have a little more, outside activities, meetups, we'd call them nowadays. Back then we called them study groups, where people would get together and go out and shoot. And we're actually doing that more this year too. A little bit last year, but more this year. I see Todd's on Zoom now, and Todd's going to be leading a group in May, shooting down downtown Denver around REI. We have a competition subject later this year called In Motion. So down there on the water, we also have a Blue Hour, Golden Hour competition later this year. So they'll be hanging out for sunset there too. So
excellent. Yeah, that REI there is awesome.
yeah, it's a cool place. It's a cool place.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, are there any guests this evening?
We do have, Elizabeth, you're a friend of David's, aren't you?
That's correct. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, welcome. Glad you could join us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, sure. And Sean, where'd you go? Oh, there you are. Had to look in the Hollywood Squares grid here.
Yeah.
Sean Strait, you joined us our last meeting, if I remember right.
Yes, that was my first time with you guys, so I'm still getting the hang of this.
Glad to have you back here, sir.
Welcome. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Do we have any visitors in the room at Lone Tree, or do we have a long distance member who maybe made it this night?
Carl, we do have one visitor from Lone Tree.
Yes.
You'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the kind of photography you like to do and how you find us.
My name's Ken Scudder, and I just drove up from Castle Rock because that's where we moved to a couple years ago. Mostly just done landscape photography, some macro type photography, mostly out in Oregon. Because that's where I moved from. And then that's when I bought my first camera. But I also use my iPhone a lot too, so it's a good thing to figure out how to use it a little better than I do, which is just snap pictures.
Great. And welcome.
Like it.
Great. Awesome to have you here. Thank you. By chance, did Cliff Stockdale make it in? He said that I talked to him earlier this week, and he said that he was perhaps going to be on a business trip to Denver this week and was going to try and stop by the meeting if he was in. Well, if you got to look around that much, he's not there. I don't think he made it. Okay, well, the only other thing I would say is welcome to the new members. Brian Olmstead, I see you're here. Welcome. Glad that you're here.
Hello.
And Andy Robbins also recently joined the club, and I didn't see him.
His hand.
He's off camera. Okay, gotcha. All right. Welcome, Andy. Glad you're back here. Glad to have you as a member. I don't have any other announcements until at the end. I'll talk a little bit about our competition that's coming up. But Terry, you want to take it away?
Sure, thanks. In a sense, tonight's program encourages an ongoing trend that recognizes cell phone cameras as an option for taking quality images. During our club competitions, for example, you may have noticed that some cell phone images have received high scores. During a club outing this last week, one member told me that he's selling his regular equipment and he intends to take photos with his cell phone exclusively. So wherever you are in this continuum of all in or indifferent, I hope tonight's program will encourage you to dig deeper or to consider giving it a try. I'm very pleased then to introduce Todd Nettelhorst in his program on cell phone photography. Todd is an award-winning photographer and international speaker. He's had a passion for photography and filmmaking for much of his life. He started photographing at a very young age when his father gave him his first SLR camera. His appreciation of photography grew while capturing moments throughout the country during summer family road trips. Though his passion for arts continued to grow, after college, Todd worked in sales and marketing for a variety of companies, quickly becoming successful in building relationships in a variety of industries. His path to becoming a professional photographer began while documenting the honesty in his own children's lives. Others asked him to capture that same spirit for their families. His unposed, unplanned, spontaneous style of photographing people helped him develop extreme patience and a keen eye for documenting the real life, personality, and expressions in those cherished moments. After years of capturing precious moments for families, other opportunities opened up in commercial photography, including events, architecture, speaking engagements, and various products. In his free time, Todd enjoys many outdoor activities such as climbing, biking, hiking, playing golf, hockey, and spending time with his beautiful family. Todd lives in Chicago with his lovely wife, Hamby, and their 3 young girls. Todd, I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Perfect. Appreciate
Thanks for
that.
coming.
Everyone you can see my screen, the share, right?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes,
Perfect.
yes, we can. And before you get started, I would ask that all the people on Zoom please mute so that we can focus on what Todd's saying without interruption. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, a couple things. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to write those in the chat. I will keep track of some of those if they fit into what we're talking about, or I'll answer them, or if I don't get to them, we'll have time at the end to be able to answer those and any other questions you guys have. So questions are good, and feel free to ask anything. I'm really excited. I really appreciate you guys reaching out. It's an honor to be able to speak to you guys there. I was talking earlier about that area being one of my favorite areas in the country. That and what someone was saying about Oregon. I love Oregon as well. So, but this is kind of a unique topic. It's something that I've really embraced, 5 years now, 5-6 years. Have full transparency. I am a Samsung shooter when it comes to the phone. I have a Sony system for my more elaborate photography, if you will. But I have really embraced smartphone photography over the years. I know, as you guys are aware, things have shrunk on your ability to really create and do things with the phone that you can do with your other systems as well. Just still some limitations as far as maybe wildlife that's far away, or playing with some of those other things. Macro has gotten a little bit better, a lot better actually, so you're able to do a lot more of that. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as we move forward here. Just a quick little overview about what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about some apps, because we love apps, right? Everybody has apps on their phone. And we're going to talk about some details about capturing. I'm going to cover both iPhone and Android, more specifically maybe the Samsung, but I'm not going to get into too much detail on each of those, but I'm going to pick out some points on both of those. And then a lot of the presentation is just more overall about phone photography, and give you guys a whole bunch of tips that actually will play into your if you're using a mirrorless or DSLR as well. So there are really some great tips, but there's some great things you can do with your phone. And let's be honest, it's the camera that's with us all the time. So it's something that I feel that people should really embrace it and be happy and get comfortable with using it. So from capturing, we're going to talk about some settings. We're not going to go too deep because there's some heavy stuff, but I'm going to have some tips for you about how to get into those settings and figure some things out. And then we're going to talk about refining or post-processing, if you will. Some apps for that. And then I'm going to go through one particular app and just give you some details about my favorite app to use for post-processing on the phone. And then again, we're going to go over some tips. Then I'm going to go into some of the sharing, social media, but also non-social media thoughts on sharing your images, because we like to get our images out there and we like, to let people see and all that. And then we'll go into some stuff on gear and some of the stuff that I use along with my phone. And then, of course, we'll open it up to some questions when we get done. So one of my favorite quotes, this just goes hand in hand with this, this topic. The single most important component of a camera is the 12 inches behind it, our friend Ansel Adams said. And what I love about this quote is it's so true. It's not the tool, right? It's how we get creative and use our minds to really compose and make that happen. So the more you can understand composition and visual design, those kind of things will really elevate your art as a whole. And this tool is just a set of tools to help you get to that. So, but understanding your tools, the same with your other camera systems, if you can get to where you're really comfortable using the settings and not having to really think about them, then we get you in the left brain, right? And really get you working on being an artist. And I think that's important. So hopefully that I can lead you guys to that a little bit more today. Another of my favorite quotes, of course, we all love Bob Ross, right? We grew up with him. This is just another great quote. We don't make mistakes. We just have happy accidents. And I think that's another great one. I just love quotes. I think it just speaks volumes to some things. So they're really accurate. So those two are two of my favorites. All right, let's jump into the apps. Now, before I get into showing you guys all the crazy apps, right? There are so many apps. Okay. So what I'm going to go through is just some basic ones and tell you the ones that I use. And one of the things that's important here is to think about being patient with a lot of these and taking little pieces of these apps or researching a little bit about an app and see, if it's just something that I could have fun with, that I can add some more value to my imagery. But when you get into those apps, and I'm going to stress this multiple times through this presentation, is the important thing is a little bit at a time. Okay. Don't try to bring in all that you can on the app. If you're sitting, say, waiting for the doctor or something, go into your app and see, and just play with something you haven't played with a little bit, with an image or with your camera where you're sitting there, and try it out and just get comfortable. Or if you're, laying in bed before you go to bed, or those kind of things, those where you have that time to just, all right, I'm going to play with this part of this app. I still want to figure it out a little bit more. So if you're patient with it and you spend some time with it, you can really get to understand it and work it better. So a couple of the categories of the apps, obviously the cameras. Okay, so iPhone has its iPhone, Google, Samsung, they all have their native, what they call a native app, which are great. They've come a long way. Some are better than others, just depending on your phone. I think that where it's come with the newer phones is a lot better. If you have an older phone, then sometimes there's some things that are limiting, so you just have to figure out what you have and what you don't. I'm not going to show too much about like the latest greatest on this. I'm just going to kind of go in the middle, and so that you guys have the basic understanding. We'll go into a little bit more detail. I'm trying to cover from beginner to maybe a little bit more advanced, right, kind of zone. But the native apps are really good. But if you want to get a little bit more out of it, and you want to try other things, these other apps like ProCam 8 or ProCam X, and there's other ones out there. that are really good too. Or Lightroom actually has its own camera app as well. If you're a big Lightroom fan and you want to, have your workflow, seamlessly between it. I don't really use I use Lightroom on my desktop and my laptop and stuff, but I don't use it for my camera because I use the Lightroom Classic and it doesn't sync as well as the mobile Lightroom. So that's something I'm hesitant on using, but it does have the camera and it does have processing in it. So if you really want to get into Lightroom, feel free to absolutely dive into that. And obviously with all of these, you can search videos to learn more and more about it. I know you guys probably do that a lot with certain things. When you're learning something, you can look up pretty much anything these days out there on the internet, or Professor Google, as I like to say. Processing, here's 3 that I had mentioned: Lightroom, and Vesco is another one that's good. The one that I use all the time is Snapseed. Some of you may have heard of it and may use it. I think it's a phenomenal app. It has some great history. It comes from the Nix software world. If any of you are familiar with that, I use that actually on my desktop through Lightroom. And so they built this Snapseed app to have a mobile version of some editing for Nix software, and then it ended up getting purchased by Google, did some enhancements, and it's a really good tool. And that's one we're going to go through later, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about. Some of the additional tools, apps out there are, for instance, tide charts. I use it all the time when I'm scheduling my workshops, specifically if I'm going to Oregon coast and we're going to shoot there. I want to know what the tides are doing for the time that I'm going to be there, and make sure that we get some good low tides for those sunrise and sunsets, because those make amazing pictures. So the tide chart's really good to follow around wherever you're going. Another one that's great is the plant net for identifying things. You can take a picture, it can tell you what that flower is, all kinds of stuff. There's other nets out there too. So you can do eBird, there's eBird, there's all kinds of things depending on what kind of photography you like. So I would encourage you to look at those. And honestly, if you have any questions or you want any feedback on anything, or my opinion on something you're looking at, feel free to absolutely reach out to me, and I will definitely answer your questions. And so iNaturalist is another great one. So they're evolving, right? So it's something to, and you can always look, like even on iTunes, you can look up the apps and see what the latest, greatest are coming out, so you can stay up. If you're the type of person want to stay up to, what's the latest and greatest kind of apps coming out, make sure you check that out. Photo Pills is something that I use quite often. I used to use Sun Surveyor, which is a really nice app, but Photo Pills is more encompassing. It's a cost-based app. Maybe some of you guys use that. I love it because you can move the pin to the position where you're going to be, and for photograph, and you can see where the moon's going to be, where it's going to rise, where the sun's going to be, where it's going to set, where it's going to go. You can even look at the Milky Way. So all the night sky, all kinds of stuff. And then you can do some planning and all that. And there's all kinds of other things in there. There's courses on Photo Pills. There's all kinds of stuff that you can learn on that. And that one's really in depth, and it's something for the money. I think it might be $10 maybe. I'm not sure where it's at now. It's just the auto thing on my charge, and I haven't looked at it in a while, but that's something that is a really great tool to use for your photography. And then here's a couple other ones that just off the top of the head. I mean, there's all kinds, but these are some good ones. Touch Retouch is a really nice app. What it can do is it can take out unwanted people in images or objects. It's really kind of cool. It's kind of like Content Aware, if you're familiar with that, for Photoshop. So that's cool. Afterlight's a great one too. It's a good editing tool, but it also has many filters if you like to play with different looks and feels and filters and that type of stuff. Even Instagram has that too, but this is just an app that you can bring your image in and do that as well. And then Prisma is another great one for iPhone. That one you can turn pics into paintings and drawings, which is kind of fun if you guys want to get a little artistic with that. It gets away from, if you're a purist, about pure photography, but if you want to have some fun and get a little artistic, that's a great app too. And then Lightricks is actually a company. It has a whole series of apps that are in their suite. A couple of them are Photo Leap, you may have heard of, or Video Leap. They're great, and they do all kinds of things too. So there's a couple just to check out. Yeah, and someone just put in here that Photo Pills has an active YouTube channel as well. Yes, they do, and it's great. Great source for information. Thanks for sharing that, Carl. All right, so let's move on to talk a little bit about capturing and making our images and the settings and those kind of things for the phone. So we have the iPhone, and what I really like about this is the portrait mode, which we're going to talk about, which can do a lot of things. But one thing I want to stress on these is if you're not familiar with your native camera, you might just have it on photo and just take pics, and have fun that way. But check out a lot of these settings like the slow-mo or shooting video. I've been really incorporating a lot more video into my creative because I think a lot of people enjoy seeing video as well as stills, but video can be fun. So don't hesitate to switch to video. When we're talking composition and stuff, there's a lot of things are parallel. So the camera can take great videos, as I'm sure you have with families and on vacations, those type of things. But check out all these different settings. One thing that I do want to mention is shooting in live. Some of you might be familiar with shooting in live, where it takes about 5-second clip of and then has the picture. And if you're going through it, you'll see it'll move real quick. The thing you can do with that is once you shoot it and you call up your image, if you click on the menu that's up in the upper left, you can pull down and there's some choices there. And one of them that people use quite frequently, and then I actually use when I'm teaching with my iPhone, is the long exposure, which is a lot of fun. So if you capture in live and you shoot anything in motion, like a good thing is waves or waterfalls. You used to not be able to do this because you couldn't slow down the waterfall and get the proper exposure. So using the long exposure, it actually takes that clip, that 5-second clip, and blends it together. And it's fun to use on like moving cars or people riding their bikes or running. You can have a lot of fun with it. So that's kind of a cool thing. When you pull up on it, you pull up on the bottom, and you can get these different settings in there. And again, I can't stress enough, like if you're not familiar with it, take some time to see what each one does and play with it. Obviously, some of them will be, self-explanatory, like the flash and not flash, or the format 4:3 or whatever. So think about shooting in different things. You can use the slider bar to adjust your exposure, which is really nice with iPhone. They don't per se have, I don't know about the 14. I haven't really read too much on that. But I know on the other phones, you can adjust the exposure compensation by sliding it. Another thing that's important is making sure that you're touching the screen to get good focus where you want focus. This is my youngest daughter. She was so cute with those glasses. And another thing, all these photos actually in here are all shot by phone, so you guys know. So focusing is key, making sure you get the focus. But if you also long press on there, you're able to slide and adjust the exposure on there. So that's another little trick. So if you hold focus, say on the nose, and you push it, then the little, I don't know if you guys can see it there, but right to the under a glass, there's a little sunlight there. And you can slide that up and down to add or take away light. And that's an important thing, especially if you want to shoot some silhouettes or something, you might want to darken it, right? So especially if you have the sun in there and you got such a big dynamic range between the highlights and the shadows, it's okay to turn those shadows down and make them darker, because silhouettes are nice when there's not a lot of detail in those shadows. So playing with that in those difficult lighting situations, or just trying to get an effect, which is very similar to your DSLR or mirrorless systems. This portrait mode is really a great thing. This is something that you can play with if you want to shoot macro, or if you're shooting people as well. you can really play with it and blur the background. I mean, here I kind of accentuated it, and so you guys could see the blur around my face. But using the portrait mode and setting, you can add light, you can adjust these boxes and slide. The key is when you put your finger on the screen, you can slide left or right, and it'll go through those different options. Okay. And usually when you want to control things, you can slide up and down on your phone for those of you that aren't familiar. But portrait mode is a lot of fun to use when you're doing some close up, or you just want to have a good effect and get that great blurred bokeh in the background. Night mode. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's another great thing. This is another thing that had a lot of limitations on the phone, the lower light, and it's gotten a lot better. Now, there are some frustrating things in here as far as I'm concerned, because the phone cameras they're adjusting pixels and those kind of things. And sometimes it's just not as crisp and clear as if you're using your big system, right? Your Canon or Nikon or Sony or whatever. So be patient with that. Sometimes if you zoom in, you can see that it's really kind of messing with it a little bit. So when they're in these night modes, because it's just the algorithm that's taking in the light and the information, it's adjusting it so it's really lightening it up. It's kind of like you bring it into Lightroom and turning it up, but and that's same with the HDR. If you have the HDR on, it's taking those 3 images and it'll stack it automatically, so it's not making them separate. So just things to be aware of. Yeah, so that's and there's a lot of other settings and things. So just, you can do some searching on the internet, or you can just go in and just start playing with some of the buttons and seeing what they do, and just play with it when you're out in the field. You know, a lot of times, like if I'm shooting wildlife, if I'm going down to Florida on Friday to do a bird workshop, and you know, I will have my 200-600 on my camera, my Sony, but then most of my landscape and the intimate landscapes, I just use my phone instead of changing lenses or having to carry 2 bodies. So that's and I do that all the time, because the phone's actually taking really good images. So just something to think about. Samsung. So just a lot of similarities. There's just different settings. The one thing with Android is and Samsung in particular, they really came out hot with a really great camera, and it is still really great. And that's why I've stuck with it, because even compared to the iPhone, people, when they see my images, they're just more, there's just something about them just a little bit better. But not to take anything away from iPhone, because that still takes amazing images. And I think the majority of the people are really using iPhones, at least the ones that I teach out there. Regular photos, good. One thing I didn't mention that I want to add to this is, well, actually, I got that on the slide coming up now that I think about it. So for the Android and the Samsung here, these are some of the things the options that are available. And one of the great options here is I can go into Pro mode. And Pro mode is awesome because I can actually sit and I can adjust ISO, and I can adjust shutter speed. I can adjust some aperture depending on your phone. So my new Samsung, the latest, has a couple apertures, so I can do some adjustments there. iPhone, I believe, does too. In a sense, it's more of an algorithm than anything, but being able to switch from manual focus to auto focus, those kind of things in certain situations. So having that Pro mode is kind of a nice feature. Some of those other apps that I talked about in the apps up there was some of those cameras you can use that have the Pro mode in them. Another thing that's great is using the autofocus and exposure lock. They can be in the same circle, or you can split them out. So if you want to focus in here, but you want your metering at a different spot, you're able to do that. And that's just a matter of touching the screen. It'll show the boxes, and then you can slide them out like that. So Lightroom's one. Here's just kind of the screenshot for it. It has the same kind of things. It has some of the adjustments you can do, like auto ISO, you can adjust some shutter speeds, white balance. So it has some pro features to it that are great. So considering, consider that, and just, you could try it out. That one doesn't, there's not a cost to that. So, but to use it outside, use it on your computer and stuff you have. One thing that, I think is important is, consider using the grids on your screen just to help you, the rule of thirds, just to help you with composition. I still use it all the time. Just, it gets me thinking of, I like to put subjects in certain quadrants and moving them around, and then shooting them and then moving them, and keep moving and working the subject a little bit, so that I have different options for when I'm looking at them later. So I use the rule of thirds to really work it around. And Lightroom also has this middle box in there. It'll light up when you got when you're level and those kind of things. So it's a really cool little feature they have on there. All right, so this is specific to Lightroom, but this is something I wanted to talk to you about, the RAW, which is the DNG versus the JPEG. There's debate all day about this type of stuff. I am a RAW shooter. I just like having all that data. I know they're larger files. And the Snapseed that I use on here can edit the RAW files as well. So I don't have to worry about that. It's just something that I've made a conscious effort to just say I'm going to shoot everything RAW, because I can share it easily as well. I know it takes up more room. I used to shoot for a while JPEG and RAW, but I just decided to get rid of the JPEG while I have those, because I'm just going to work my image anyways, and then I'll get the JPEG out of that. And then I'm just conscious of deleting a lot of images. I think that's just a little side note, but I think for all your photography, I think it's important, because as these cameras grow bigger and bigger files, we're really chewing up a lot of space on our hard drives, as I'm sure you guys are all aware. We all have that issue. So I think it's important that one of your workflow steps when you bring your images in, it's okay to delete the garbage. We don't have to keep it. I struggle with it myself. So it's just something to think about and get rid of those things, because our phones will just fill up quick too, right? And they don't have external cards in them anymore. That's the one thing that drew me to the Samsung, because I could put a card in there. So that's that. The exposure compensation, again, most of the native cameras have that now. Same with most of the apps, but it's something to just really be aware of, because I think you can get cool effects like this. My daughter running in the water there in downtown Chicago with the water falling over that. So if I were to just shoot that regularly, I'd really be having a hard time being able to get that. So I'm able to slide and just adjust it a little bit to get the right exposure. Let's see, we got any questions here. Do you use an S series or A series Samsung? I'm not sure what S series or A series is, Carl. For my Samsung, I have the Ultra 23, the latest. And
Okay,
the
well,
Pixel.
that would be an S series.
Okay.
The A series are a little less expensive, but some of them, I just read today, they just introduced the A54.
Oh yeah, okay, right, which is
Which has apparently the same camera in it that like the S23 or 22 had or something like that. But
yeah, and I don't know,
I'm just
just
looking at
trying.
cost.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing. I think they're just trying to broaden their market reach, right? I mean, it's like
Exactly.
the R5, R6, or the Sony 7R versus the 7R, or the A7, like it's just, there's so much out there. But yeah, and the Pixel, Elizabeth, the Pixel is another great camera to use as well. It's a good phone as well. So that's another one. I'm not too familiar with it, but these same kind of things, just go through your menus and see what they do. And if you don't know it, just do a little quick Professor Google ask, and get some information back, go, oh, that's what that does, and then play with that a little bit. So just being patient, I think, is important. All right, on to our post-processing, refining our beauty that we're capturing. Here's the three, and there's others. There's all kinds. I'm privy to using, I really enjoy the Snapseed. I embraced it early, and I'm proficient with it, and it's quick and easy. And so I'm going to take you through that. I'm going to take you through a little bit of my workflow on that. One thing that's important to remember is a little bit at a time. There's a lot in here. Okay. This image here you see here of is I shot it up in Door County, Wisconsin. And one feature that I'm hoping iPhone will grab onto is the command capture. And I can, instead of, and as I get older, and even at my young age of 53, I struggle getting up, okay, once I'm down. And so one thing I enjoy about the Samsung is I can give it a command and it'll take the picture. And so I can say capture, I can say shoot. It's funny when I'm up with other shooters and they have it on, both the cameras go off on their phones. But this one is one I just held down really low and aimed it up, and kind of, I mean, I've gotten good at positioning my phone and knowing where the lens is and stuff. And then I just say shoot. And so I got that. That's actually a wooden fence there. And I'm literally, it's almost touching the ground when I shot that. So that's something that's kind of cool with the Samsungs. And I don't know if Google or Pixel has that or not, but it's a great feature. But they all should have it, by the way. So, and I don't know why we don't, because it's just programming. It's not really that hard. Okay, Snapseed. Good stuff. All right, looks. So when you first get in there, you can hit the looks, which is right down here. You can see my mouse. And it gives you just some pre-done filters and stuff to do some playing with it. I don't use them too much because I just go right into the tools and really do my own thing. But you know, again, play with them and see what they do. And maybe you like some of them. I mean, there's some black and white ones. It moves. If you scroll to the left, the ones from the right side will move into the picture space on that. But here is some of the tools, or all of the tools that are plopped into the Snapseed. And there's a bunch of them, and they all do different things. But I'm going to take you through some of the ones that I use. But this is something like I talked about when you're in the doctor's office or whatever. If you guys want to jump in and grab a picture and just see what some of these do, I really encourage it. And again, this is a free app to download. If you are shooting with RAW, it'll give you another extra thing right to the left of this tune images. It'll give you an option. It'll go into to make some adjustments as a RAW image, and then you'll have all these other ones too. So one of the ones that I may use, you know, and this is kind of my workflow. Cropping may come later. Sometimes I don't crop. But the cropping tool is real easy. It's like any of your other post-processing. You can do free cropping. You can do, you know, square, and there's 6x9 and so on, right? And then you can use the arrow down there and you can turn it vertically or horizontally, depending on what your image is. So feel free to play with that. And then just when you're cropping, use your common sense on your composition, and it's good. And then if you, let's go back to that. Then so the check mark down here is once you do, you're set on your crop, you hit the check mark and then you come out of it. Or if you're not happy with it, and if you don't hit the check mark, anything you did in the app, if you hit the X, it just comes out without saving it. Okay, so, or if you've done stuff, you can, you know, well, we'll talk about that, redo and all that. So then I just go back into the tools. And then one of the main ones I use is in this upper left here is the tune image, and it has a variety of things. So to call up the screen, you just tap on the screen and it'll show it. And then to move between these from brightness to contrast to saturation to ambience and so on, you can just go up and down. Okay. If you want to adjust one of them, say brightness, when you're on brightness, move your finger while you're touching the screen left and right. And it'll go plus and it'll go minus. And it'll show you, it'll actually, the image will adjust and you'll be able to see it. And you go, I don't really like that. And then if you double tap on it, it'll go back to 0. Okay, so that's with any of those. So these, some of the things you can play with. Obviously, you can do shadows and warmth and playing with some ambience, which is kind of a global setting. It'll brighten your subject a little bit, maybe darken, your background. It's just, you'll have to play with to see if you like it. But again, a little bit of a time, right? Play with these, see what they do. You're gonna over time develop, kind of what's your style and what you like to do. So when you go back into the tools, another one's called detail, which is the one that's next to the tune images, that you can add some structure, some detail in there. And then you can sharpen your image. If you'd like to do that. The other thing is, if you notice up here in the top right, there's that little symbol where it's got the dotted lines on the right and the solid lines on the left. If you push that down, and let off, it'll toggle between what you came in with, this settings, and what you set it to. So it can go back and forth so you can see the difference, and then you can, adjust accordingly. So it's a good little feature there to see kind of like the, before and after. The other one I like is the healing. This is a really good one. We want to get rid of, some dots. We want to get rid of some great dust on our lens, whatever it is, right? So you're able to use the healing tool to, just push on it. You can draw, you can use your finger to make it bigger, smaller, whatever you want. And then these arrows on the bottom, you can undo or redo kind of thing as you're doing it. Another one that's really cool is the selective tool, where you can actually go with your finger on the picture space and put it on that pixel or that area like I have here. And then when you let go, you can go up and down, and there's options for you to adjust saturation, adjust structure, all kinds of different things. So and it'll actually just change those pixels, which is really cool. So it won't do a global thing. It'll just do what you've picked on. So it'll find those pixels, that tone, what have you, and it'll adjust those, which is neat. And then here's the tools again. So those are some of them. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. You can do some good, you can use curves if you guys want to like to adjust on curves. You can rotate your image. You can add some filters in there. You can add text. You can add frames. I mean, there's all kinds. Do vignetting. You can blur. You can actually, the head pose is kind of fun. You can actually play with it, and you can make somebody's face smile or not smile. Kind of wild, but really weird. So those kind of things. And then something that you can do that they didn't have originally, which was really good that they put in, was the undo redo. You used to do all this work to your image, and then you didn't like it, you'd have to start all over. But now you can go through, view your edits, or you can just undo the last part or go back to it if you wanted to. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of it. There's so much in there though. So like I said, don't get overwhelmed. Take a little bit at a time and play with it. And I think you'll really enjoy it. It's really a super simple or a super great processing tool for the phone. I mean, it is really awesome. And I use it, honestly, all my images on my phone. So, because I bring my images in. Actually, I bring a lot of my Snapseed images into and save them on my my drives at home on the network. Not too much about the other ones unless it's family pics and that type of stuff. So that way, once I work them, and those are the really ones, the cream of the crop that I love. So again, if you have any questions on any of this, feel free to reach out to me and you want to talk about it. So, all right, let's jump into a little bit about some tips. These are not, so to speak, specific to the phone, but there's some good tips that I think might be really helpful just for your photography in a whole, but also help you think about when you're shooting with your phone. Okay, so these are some tips to instantly improve your photography. This one was shot with a lens on it that you guys are like, how do you get a cell phone that close? So here we go. First tip I have, and these first 4 tips are really for every shot that you do, I think will be helpful for you guys to improve. I use these in the majority of my presentations. And when we talk about subject, we want to ask ourselves a question on these first 4. And this question is, what is the subject and where do you place it in the picture space? And so it's a really interesting thing if you think about it, right? So thinking about what is really my subject. You know, is it the crab? Am I interested in the pier, or, you know, what is it, the scene with the pier out there? Or am I really drawn to the sand or the water? Then if that's the case, you really want to fill your frame with it and make sure you have that as, you know, understandably as your subject. So just thinking about it, and if you notice the crab, which is a really interesting picture, this is the Oregon coast, by the way, Dungeness crab that if any of you guys have been out there, that the seagulls just feed on all the time, which is amazing, right? But we buy them in the restaurant right up the road for, you know, $50 or whatever, right? So this one I put a tripod with a phone adapter, and I put my phone on it, and I did it I did a time lapse of shots, and I just sat it there because the crab wasn't going to come close to me. And then I walked way back up, you know, and then it took me a little while. Well, I didn't get it the first time. Actually, the wave came and knocked the whole thing over, and it went underwater and everything, but good thing it was, you know, waterproof, so to speak. So it was good, but I ended up capturing, and I thought that was a pretty good image. And the phone's actually right there. That's not zoomed in. So it was a really cool image. All right, so the next thing to think about too with the subject is, we talked earlier a little bit about rule of thirds. I don't really like to have rules, but I think it's good guidelines for starting places for where you put your subject, or where you can lead people into, you know, with your eye and stuff like that. So try off center, try in the center, you know, moving around, take multiple shots, make things so that they're moving into the frame instead of moving out of the frame. And then give some breathing room, you know, around, and think about that. And then the next tip is light. So we got subject, and then we want to think about the light. And the question that goes with that is, what will enhance your subject best? So we've got all kinds of lights. We can go into a whole, you know, talk about light, but some of them are, right, quality, right, which is a good one. And then directionality, right? Quality can be, you know, warm or cool, those kind of things. So the blue hour, golden hour, those kind of things. And then directionality, rear light, side light. Side light's really good if you want to emphasize some texture. Diffuse light's really nice if you want to really enrich the colors. So just seeing and asking yourself, what will really enhance my subject best? What story am I trying to tell here? You know, and so where do I want the light, and how do I want that to play? Both those shots are Cabo, down in Cabo on Land's End there. Same beach, and they do such a great job with the turtles down there, and making sure that they get to the water. And my kids absolutely love it when they're letting them go, because it's such a cool experience to witness. So here's a little review. We talked about the direction, right? Rear, side light or rear light, or the quality of light. So just being aware of that. Background is the next one, which I think is almost as important as the subject, right? So the question that goes with that, does the background add to or take away from your subject? All right. And one of the key things with this is contrast. Okay. So if you have a light subject, right, look for a dark background. If you have a dark subject, look for a light background. Or you can have color contrast as well, or you can have sharpness contrast, right, from blurry to sharp. So different kinds of things that you can use for contrast. And when you're shooting, photographing like flowers or those things, look at that background. How's that play? Is it competing with it? If it is, then move, right? adjust yourself, maybe move a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, up or down, change your angle a little bit. See if you can get a nice dark background behind, the tulip, if you can, right? It was all bright and all that, The other thing is to avoid clutter. Okay, so really keep it simple, simplify it. I think more simplistic images are really more powerful than anything else. That one on the top there is really interesting. Came out of COVID time. I did a lot of studio work and presenting in the studio here, actually in my office. But I have a setup over here on a drafting table with black felt and all this. Well, what this actually is a vase filled with water. And underneath I shoot my own backgrounds and print them. And this is a background that I had shot with some flowers and what, and I just go out of focus, I shoot it and I print it and I mount it on black core board and I bring them with, if, sometimes I put it behind an image or whatnot. But this is, the big circle is oil. So I dropped oil in the top of the water and then I took a syringe and I blew bubbles, 3 bubbles right in there and it just came out really cool. So that's a lot of fun. And then that's my daughter's eye down there. I did a little painting of the eye there. Okay, and then the last one of the 4 tips is the edges. And the question that goes with that is anything too close to the edge or just cut off. So running your eye around the edge and see if there's anything. Did I just miss the petal of the flower? Oh, do I want it? If I want it cut off, then why don't we move it in a little bit and make sure it looks like I consciously made an effort to cut it off. Another example is cutting off at wrists, right? Or at the ankles, right? It was kind of leaves a little tension to the viewer's eye. So just leaving a little bit of room. The other thing is also I like to close my eyes and open my eyes and see where my eye goes, and then also see if there's something that's distracting in there. Maybe a pole's coming out of your, daughter's head or your granddaughter's head or something, and then just trying to move your position to get a better shot. So just trying to build a little awareness around, improving and making a better picture. And, let's leave some space, right? Check them and leave space. Okay, so let's see, we got a question. Do you use selfie stick, especially along rocky coast areas? I do use selfie sticks and not too much, but I do a little bit. A lot of times I'll set a tripod and I've got some tripods that'll wrap around things and hold on to things and have some fun with that. But selfie sticks are fun too. And especially with me being able to do voice command and shoot, it really is helpful as well. Okay, we touched on this probably a couple times already, the simplicity. I think this is super important if you really want to really get impactful imagery, and this is something that I may be telling you guys already know, but trying to eliminate the clutter and keep your images as simple as possible. Notice on that picture I filled the frame, right? So the power in that is the veins, right? And the side light that actually emphasizes those. And so what's neat about it is I'm not showing, I have a picture of the plant or the entire leaf, but this is way more impactful because I moved in and I filled the frame with it. So something to think about. Angle is another tip. Okay, try shooting up, down, from the side of your subject, go underneath, shoot the back of the flower, and doing them all too, right? Work the subject a little bit. I mean, there's a fun little assignment where you find a subject, for instance, like this tulip, and shoot it. Now sit there and now shoot it 20 different ways, right? And then after that, whittle it down and, take an angle that you like and a composition that you like out of that, and then try to shoot that 5 different ways, and work your way down to really work the image. And I think that's a great way to improve your photography, is to really just start doing those kind of things and really working your subject, because then as you get more seasoned in your photography, and some of you might be aware of this, is that you're able to see better, see differently, be more aware of what you're trying to accomplish, and go right to that quicker too. So it can open your eyes to other things. But angle, when I got started getting paid for photography, was I won the hearts in the eye of, I was a stay-at-home dad, so I just played, and the kids were probably sick of me shooting them, or I shouldn't say that, photographing them, was my angle. Like I would go into a party and all the adults were photographing their kids from standing up or photographing down at them. And what I did was I laid on the floor and I shot up at them. It was a totally different angle. So change your angle, try something new, try something different. All right, sense of depth. Use objects in the foreground to frame a scene, like the one below, or leading lines, right, near to far. That top one is a stadium here in Chicago that the Chicago Red Stars girls team plays at, soccer team. And I just used a super wide angle, and look how cool that is, right? I mean, it was cool that it was an empty stadium too. But those lines, it just leads you right around the stadium. Is kind of cool. And then shooting through that fence. That's actually in Dallas Divide right there, over there off of $1 Million Highway. You guys are familiar with that down there by like Uray area. Close up and personal, right? I've said this a couple times, move in, fill the frame, right? The one in the below is actually I shot it here downtown Chicago. It's actually a parking garage. All those blue lines, that area, that's the checkerboard there, that's actually mirrored. It's mirrored and it's reflecting a building across the street. And all those black lines are the openings for the air to flow through. And I just tilted my camera too. It's just a cool abstract, right? So thinking about those things, but filling your frame is awesome. Silhouettes, right? Best result is during those blue and golden hours. And then remember, take that exposure compensation and adjust it, move it down. Okay. That's my dad actually there, that silhouette at the bottom, shooting on the Oregon coast by like Cape Mears. Love the Oregon coast, one of my favorite spots. Abstracts. Love abstracts. Getting a little artistic, use patterns, right? Find patterns with patterns everywhere, all over. I just did a conference down in Fort Myers a couple weeks ago, or middle of March or whatever it was. And I just did a whole segment on walking around the campus of Florida Gulf Coast University. And it's really neat. They have boardwalks and they have buildings, and we just looked for abstracts, and that's all we did was just look for patterns and abstracts and shot that. And it was a lot of fun. And it's another great thing for you guys to do. If you're looking for something to stimulate and you get you out there, go out and give yourself assignments. I'm just going to shoot abstracts, or I'm just going to find patterns and shoot those. Really a great thing. And then focus is really critical, right? So making sure you have what's in focus, locate the focal point, push on that, lock it in. And then it's important to check it, look at your work, right? Same with your DSLR, your mirrorless, right? Call it up, zoom in, make sure you have what you want in focus. You're there. You may not get back there to be able to, get that composition again. So that's important. Okay. We're moving along nice. I think. How are we on time? I got just a little bit longer. I hope you guys are still with me. I don't hear anybody snoring, so we're doing okay, I think. There may be some. Let's see. We got a couple questions. How to use a voice command? So that's a setting in the settings in there, in the app, the native app, and it'll tell you I think it's the capture settings. I'm not for sure. If you shoot me a note, I can tell you exactly where that's at. And then I do use accessories for lenses, and we're going to get to that in just a few minutes here. All right, real quickly, many of you are really familiar with this, so I'm not going to beat you guys on it. There's just some highlights that I want to talk about. Obviously, these are a variety of the ways you can share. Facebook, Instagram. I really use Instagram a lot. I use Reels. In there, I do that. I don't do too much Twitter, and I should probably do more Pinterest, and I can go on and on and on. And YouTube's great too, and so on. But one thing with Facebook and some of the things I want to highlight on this is, some of you may not be familiar, but you just create a post. This is typically what it looks like. You can do all kinds of things with it. You can tag friends and feelings and check in where you're at. I try not to do that too much. Some of the locations I like to just not have people come running to all the time. But if you're with friends and family and all that, it's all good. But writing something nice, you can go in and select from your albums that you have, or, you know, from on your phone, or you can have them uploaded in there. Feel free, you know, to share multiple images. So a series of them, which is a good thing. And this one, for instance, is beautiful bosque birds. I just called this shooting down. So this was down in Bosque del Apache, down in New Mexico. If you haven't been, you guys should go. If you're bird fans, it's a great place. But just kind of having a series here of some different images. And then, of course, you can share as much as you want. As far as words and that type of thing. But I think adding videos, those kind of things are really nice. You can, if you're not familiar with stories are great. You can do a lot more to them as well. You can add on text, you can do links in there. You can do all kinds of things with it. You can tag people. And then those are something that'll stay up for a day and then they disappear. But you can review them again. So there's all kinds of things. And then once you create it, there's also an option to save it to your phone, which sometimes it's fun to have that. Maybe share on another platform. The one I really use a lot is the Instagram. This one's a lot great because you can do just a regular post. You can do stories, you can do highlights, you can do some videos, the reels. So there's all kinds of things. The IGTV allows you to do longer videos than the reels. I think reels are really popular now, which are great. They're a lot of fun to watch. If you follow some great photographers, they're sending a lot of stuff out there, which is really great. Stories is another thing that's quick, you know, it shows for a little while and then it disappears. You know, if you need help with those things, you can do a lot of search, and there's a lot of information on that about how to do those kind of things. But you can do locations and tag people. I know I'm probably telling you guys a lot. A lot of times, or the stuff that you already really know, a lot of times I'll do my Instagram post and then I just share it to Facebook because I have some of them overlap, but there's some that are just on Facebook and some that are just on Instagram. Make sure you're using some hashtags to just, if you want to draw more people into your stuff and get more interaction. If you don't care about it, you just want to post, feel free to do that. These are the stories. There's some really cool stuff. Same thing with the Instagram. So, I mean, that's kind of it. One thing I wanted to say was, you know, do some videos of slideshows. We used to do slideshows. My dad used to put slideshows on for us all the time, and we really kind of miss that. And I don't see a lot of that out there. People taking their images and making a video of it in a series. And I think that's kind of fun. And you can add some music to it, and sometimes it's nice and relaxing. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, you know, in today's world to sit down, but if you keep the clips to, you know, a minute or less or something, people will watch that. So, you know, have fun with that, adding pictures and, you know, in kind of a video. So combining the two. All right, let's go into gear, which I'm really good these days at reaching in people's pockets to spend their money. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. These are some of the things, and there's all kinds of stuff, but these are some of the things that I have in my arsenal that I use. Digiscoping is one that I've really embraced over the last couple of years, where you can actually take a spotting scope or binocular or a monocular. They have all this that you can put on your tripod and hook your phone, and you can shoot the wolves across Lamar Valley with the 8x digiscope, and you can't reach that with your camera. Full disclosure, I'm a Vanguard ambassador, so you'll see a handful of Vanguard stuff in here. I really like their tripods for my macro stuff, and I embrace their backpacks and that type of stuff. I've really fallen in love with the quality of work they had. So you'll see some of that in here. So, but being able to hook your phone on here, it takes a little bit of work to get that, but it's really something cool if you guys are interested in that. If you're a birder, It's absolutely awesome. So there's some technique. Here's that monocular. I actually love this monocular. I bring it out with me all the time, especially when in my wildlife and birding expeditions, because I use that to just kind of look around everything and then pull up my big lens instead of just carrying that around. I mean, I carry it around, but instead of holding it up, trying to look at anything. So the monocular is a lot of fun, and it can fit right in your pocket. A couple of the little tripods. It's a great little travel tripod. This VEO 3 Plus Go. It really gets really small, but it also one of the leg unscrews in it. And if you guys like shooting with a monopod, it works great. And there's all kinds of cell phone adapters out there. This one is nice if I'm more stationary, but if I'm going in and out, on and off it, I like the spring-loaded ones. So those work well. And that's if you're attaching it on your tripod. A lot of times I have a tripod with a center post that I can pull up and I can go across. I use it for my macro when I want to get over images and stuff, because I can't do that with my regular tripod. And then I have an adapter I can attach on. And a lot of times I'll shoot with both. Like if I'm like, for instance, Bosque, I had the snow geese blast off. Had my phone mounted on the tripod while I was shooting with my camera, and that thing was recording video while I was doing that. So do both of those at the same time. Lenses. Okay. So Gwen asked about accessory lenses. Moment lenses is something that I like. There's all kinds out there, but I really like the quality of these. The one thing you have to do is you have to get the case that adapts to the lens. But they have some good stuff to help you with. They have a macro lens, which is okay. You just got to really get close to the image. I don't use that as much anymore because my camera now, I have a 10x zoom on it, which is optical, which is awesome. What they ended up doing was they turned the lens instead of having it the thickness, kind of like a periscope, like you do when you look through your DSLR. So they were able to get that the 10x, which is great. But some of these fisheyes and some of these other things, a lot of the cameras in the phones are really kind of eliminating these because they're coming up, like mine has 5 lenses on it. So they're really having those options but if you have an older phone, these are really high quality lenses for it. I still haven't found a good lens, a zoom telephoto lens that I really like. I just use my big camera, so I just accept that limitation right now. Maybe someday, I mean, I can zoom in 10, but once you start using your pinch fingers, you guys know the pixels start to fall off and it really doesn't look good. Use these all the time, especially macro. Some of my video, but mostly macro and stuff. The Panel Go and the Panel Pro. The new, the new panel, smaller Panel Go has color now, the new one they just came out with. But the Panel Pro you can adjust in 256 different colors if you want to add color. And I do a whole thing on macro light painting, which is a lot of fun. You guys may be interested in that as a club for me to come back and do. That's a really cool thing where you're painting. You can paint. You're not seeing the light source, but you're painting on your subjects and doing some fun stuff, paper and white flowers and all kinds of things. So when you're in your house, or you can even do it out in the field too, a lot of fun. But these you can control by the app on your cell phone. The Cube is waterproof. I use that. Sometimes I drop that in a tidal pool if I want to light the sea anemone or the starfish, those kind of things a little bit. And you can adjust the brightness and the from cool to warm as well. So those are great little things. Couple other things I use more for my macro, but I use them for my phone too. These are not necessarily specific to a phone photography, but the Wimberley Plamp, I use that to actually hold my small 12-inch diffusion discs and also reflectors if I'm trying to light things up. So I use that a lot. Like I shoot a lot of macro in midday, which is, you're not really shooting anything else. So it's great to be out during the day. You can use your diffusion disc to really get a good look and really get that rich color. So these are a couple things that are great to use. as kind of a side note as additional. The Hoodman loop's a lot of fun. A lot of people know to use it on the back of your LCD on your DSLR. What it is, if you're not familiar with it, is it actually forces, it's kind of like looking in your viewfinder. But what it does is you can put it on your phone as well, and you can adjust it to your eye. So it has a diopter on it to be able to focus in, but it also magnifies a little bit. And what's nice is when you're looking just in there, all you see is the image. You don't see anything around. So you're really concentrated on what's in your picture. So that's kind of fun. And then this gimbal is a really great one. I use this a lot for shooting my education videos or stuff, or just walking around with the video, shooting video. And it's awesome because you just magnets right onto your phone, and you can flip it vertical, horizontal, those kind of things. And then for the video, I use this mic that hooks in. It'll hook into your phone. And then it's got the good windsock on it like that. And then I talked about the device, this ProMaster Crazy Legs. Those bend and everything, so I can attach it on trees and limbs and things, and all kinds of different situations. Some of this more or less might be for when I'm, shooting video of myself or what have you, but I also may set this stuff up while I'm photographing to shoot some waves or, some bird activity or what have you. So, and I'm not sponsored by Hunts, but Hunts is just a great partner. My dad's been a long time photographer. What we loved about Hunts is it's like having your own, if you don't have your local little camera shop, it's that feel. But it's a national store, more on the East Coast, but free shipping, and Noah is a great guy. So anything that you need, they're there not only for selling you gear, but as a resource as well. And they have good education programs too. All right, summary. Here we go. Main thing, focus is critical, right? We know that. Just make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're getting the focus you want, okay? Tapping that screen. Sometimes we just shoot and we may not have that in focus, right? And it's not picking up the subject that we want. So make sure you're doing that. And I can't stress enough, keep it simple. Not only with what the next one says, try a little bit at a time, but also simplify your images, right? And patience and practice, and more patience and more practice. You guys know, the more you can get out there and shoot and practice, the better you're going to get. And going to presentations like this, or watching videos online. So, and then going out and trying to practice that, right? What you've learned. So I think that's important. I'm going to throw something at you. It's up to you. I love to give assignments. So we talked about this in the very beginning a little bit. Little storytelling, pick a subject and tell a story, right? Create seven images and a video. Work that subject a little bit, tell just a little bit of story, and share it socially and tag me, or if you don't want to go socially, reach out to me, share them via email, and I'm happy to talk to about it. I think it's great to kind of give yourself assignments when you go out there, and just think of, oh, maybe I'm just gonna go shoot in black and white today, right? That's another good one. Or I'm just gonna shoot lines, or just reflections, because reflections are great too. So all right, real quick, couple little sales things. As I explained, next week I got the bird and wildlife workshop down in Delray Beach. Super excited about that. That's a lot of fun. I do that annually. Storytelling landscapes, doing a great little thing on storytelling up in Lake Superior, on Madeline Island. Check out any of this. You can see all this on my website, and I'll give you that information in a second. But this is a great one. If you guys aren't familiar with the Madeline Island School of Art, what's really unique, and that's what that picture is, they offer photography, painting, writing, and quilting classes in multiple locations: Bar Harbor, down in Tucson, and in Madeline Island. And I think also maybe one in California. I think they're opening up. But This is a great opportunity. It's my dad and myself that are actually teaching this. So there's 2 instructors on this. Smoky Mountains coming up in October. Great place to shoot. One of my favorites. And then some of the ones next year, we're going to go to New Mexico in January. We're going to go down Superstition Mountain, excuse me, in the spring, Olympic Peninsula in August, which is one of my favorite places out there. It's just so unique environment. You haven't been out there. That's a fantastic. That one we've done for many years, and we haven't done it for quite a while, maybe five years or so. And so that's backed by popular demand. And then another one, if you're really adventurous, this is kind of close to you guys. A 5-day canoe photography trip down the Green River, from Green River to Mineral Bottom, just before you get into Canyonlands. And that's I've got a guide with me that's going to be cooking all our meals, and we're going to do all kinds of stuff, and it's limited to 6 people. That one's going to be, I'm really excited about that because I did that trip in my 20s with my dad, and I'm looking forward to adding photography to that. And with that said, you guys can use your phone if you guys want to scan that. It'll take you to my website. Here's my contact information if you want to reach out, and we'll open it to some questions. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Honestly, really appreciate it.
Do you do all of your editing on your phone, or do you do any on your desktop computer?
I really do it on my phone if I'm shooting it on my phone. There's some that I do. I bring some in, but you know, when I do it on my desktop is if I'm going to, I want to print it, try to get it to a larger format, right? I'm not just sharing it digitally. So if I'm going to print it out, or you know, then I'll bring it in here and work on it here. And I'll work from the original, not from what I've done, and do that. But most of my phone stuff is really kind of sticking on the phone.
Okay, thanks.
So Todd, I have a question as well. So
yeah,
I've got the Samsung S22, and I found it really hard to find a good YouTube or even a documentation or training on the actual camera settings features. Have you found anything out there that's?
That is a great question you have there. I have not. And if you drop me a note, okay, drop me an email, because I'm going to look this up. I will shoot you some stuff. Okay. And if there's a bunch of you guys interested in that, then I can send it to Terry or Carl, and you guys can send it out. And we can do that anyways too. If you guys want me to give you some iPhones, a couple iPhone things and a couple Android things or Samsung things to consider.
Yeah, I mean, even Samsung documentation is non-existent.
Yeah.
No, and I just trial, right? I just played with it and stumbled through it like anything, right? Like, oh man, I'm more frustrated searching for this stuff. And I just said, forget it. All the time I'm spending trying to find something that and a lot of the stuff I find is like, no, that's not, you're not really teaching me this. You're not really showing me the right things, right? So, and there's not really anything out there. And that's interesting. Maybe, I consider putting something together for that, since I've used it for so long. Just getting in more detail about each one and starting with setups and then how to set it up and then shoot and then use the different things and then go from there with workflow. I think there's a lot of people that might be interested in that, but to answer your question, no, I really don't. I haven't found anything. It's frustrating. There might be some. One of the sites that I really gravitate to a lot is expertphotography.com. If you guys are familiar with that, I think he does a really great job. And the writers on there explaining different things. So maybe try there. I don't know if they have anything specific to getting into the details of, like they do for, you can find them on Sony's and Canons and all that, right? All those great detailed YouTubes that show you, just walk you through it, right? That's what you're probably looking for. And I have not seen that on really much phone stuff. iPhone, yeah, a little bit, but.
Did you say that you could open a raw file in iPhone from the iPhone in Snapseed?
Yeah,
Is that under tools? Is that, how would you?
do you have Snapseed? Do you
Yeah,
have
I've
that?
got Snapseed on my phone, yeah.
Yeah, so when you open up the image, in what I do is I take the image, okay? I'm on the image on my phone, and then I share it with Snapseed, and so then that opens up there. And when that happens, not 100% sure on the iPhone, but when it opens up, it'll start with the raw,
Okay,
adjusting the raw.
oh, okay,
So try that. If you're having trouble, let me know, or do a little Professor Google search about editing iPhone raw files in Snapseed.
okay, will do, thank you.
The key too is when you're asking Google, be as specific as possible. There's a lot of information on there, and really think about the question you're going to ask and be right direct with it.
Okay, thank you.
You'll get there quicker. You know what I
Okay,
mean?
okay.
Todd, this is
I'm
Carl.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. You guys, if you
Right,
guys
okay.
need information, just let me know. I can put it back up.
Yeah, that was one thing I was going to ask you to do, is so we can get back to the
Yeah.
Hollywood squares here. Um, but the other thing I was going to say is that, yeah, if you've got any kind of, links, resources, tutorials, YouTube videos, whatever, if you want to, take a couple days if you need to or whatever, but if you want to put together some information I can distribute to the club, we would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay, awesome. Yeah, for sure.
In the chat, I think there was Terry actually hit me in the chat, and I posted it to everywhere, but he was asking about how to use the Loom Cube from Macro.
So, so I had those, there was the panels and then the cube, and so we'll talk generally as a light source, LED light source. I don't do a whole lot of flash because I like to use this cube. I like to use the light so that I can meter and I can see what I'm going to photograph. So I really like these. And what's neat about them is that they're like the size of your phone. So you can actually put them right into another or another phone adapter, and be able to and then and I can put them right in like that Crazy Leg, or there's the Jobby. There's all kinds of little tripods, right, that you can wrap around things. And a lot of times I'll wrap them on the leg of my tripod, and I'll have it in the cell phone holder, right? And then I'm able to adjust those intensity wise from 1 to 100. And I'm also able to, well, adjust the color, but we're not really using color too much, but the white balance in that, right? So from warming and cooling it, I think it goes from 3600 to like 54 or something, somewhere in there. So you can play with adding that light. So, or I'll move that tripod, that wraparound tripod, little tripod, to the ground and illuminate maybe a flower from underneath. Or a lot of times I'll take, and there's one other thing I want to add. So a little tip for you guys. A lot of times I'll take it and I'll just move the light around the subject while I'm looking at my camera, and just see, oh, I like it right there. Shoot, 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 right? The other thing that I use often, especially for macro and close-up photography, and I use this for teaching as well when I'm out in the field, is I use my phone before my DSLR to find the angle I want. Instead of taking my camera and trying, lugging it around, I'll use my phone and go, oh, I really like what that looks like over here. Okay, let me bring my tripod over here and then put my camera on, or bring it over here and start at that angle, instead of lugging the big, Canon or whatever. So I know it's getting a little bit away from the phone photography, but that's a little tip I use to actually see different angles in how that's going to be for competition or composition and looking at the background. But those are ways that I use that for macro, and I'll adjust the intensity on those. So I hope that answers that question. Is that what you were looking for, or?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, and I'll light, and I can use multiples because I have two of those goes, and then I have the pro. So I sometimes, and I don't want to make too much light in it, but sometimes you just want to illuminate the inside of the flower, or you want, just give you different looks. I'm more of a natural shooter, with the natural light 90% of the time, but in macro I like to have some effects. And then if I'm shooting here at the architecture, the table, the drafting table I have here that's set up so I can bring any objects in and flowers, and I can light it all different ways. I use that a lot. Or on your kitchen counter or whatever you want. But you can play with your phone, you set up a table next to a one of your windows, right, in your house, and have it on the like side light coming in, not the bright sun, but a good diffused light coming in, and set up your phone and play with some objects and shoot, and use the portrait mode to, play with your depth of field a little bit and have some fun with it. Or use a pano. I mean, you can get really creative. I mean, you can use everyone thinks of the panoramic as a big scene, like the one behind me here, which is the Chicago skyline shot from a drone. It's double this width, actually, this picture behind me. But you can use it to go around close-up objects, use it and try to pan it around, go around the subject and play with it. Something, have fun with. Silliness, if you will.
Well, sometimes you got to do crazy experimental.
Right. Have some fun with it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think some of the big or takeaways from this is really the angle, right? Get down and shoot up, like do some funky stuff.
Todd, this is the other Todd, but
Hey.
I'm not even 1/10 as cool as you, man.
Yeah, well, your last initial there is my middle initial, so you're really cool.
Well, I'm just trying to keep up here.
I hear you.
It sounds like you got a pretty amazing life. Family.
Well, I have some fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I can tell you about shooting up with daughters as they get older, they're not going to do that. Yeah. So get them shooting up while they're small. I've got 2 adult daughters, and they don't allow me to do that anymore.
Yeah, or when they were really young and they didn't have any clothes on, right? I mean, maybe a diaper, but that was the other situation, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing that.
They just don't like their chins being
yeah, no, 100%.
So that's it. Thank you for your time. It's really, really good. I've never done a whole meeting on my iPhone, but since it's on,
so let me ask you real quick, how was the presentation from viewing it on the phone? Did you have my picture in there, or was it just all presentation?
No, you can swipe. I can, I've got your picture. There's well, for the first 25 minutes I was driving and I didn't have my glasses. So
nice.
None of that was good.
I don't advise that next time, by the way.
No, I know it was bad.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I have a loop on my phone. I was just listening to it as I was driving.
So it was all right.
It was great. And then
right,
and now that I'm back at a house and I have my glasses on and I can see Gwen, and she took down that other picture of her holding that giant camera that she doesn't use anymore. God. So bad.
I love it.
After tonight, I don't have to feel guilty about using my iPhone.
No, you don't. All right.
Yeah.
Well, and thank you, Carl, for promoting the at least letting people be aware of the mentor. It's the 5th Wednesday, which is the last day of the month, and it's promoted as a mentor workshop, but I want everybody there. I just think we can have so much fun. That is just, and there's so much area to spread out. The details are on the website. Carl's got everything already up. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would encourage as many people as possible to get down there for that event because that'll be a fun time.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. Yeah, and just a little add-on, if any of you guys are interested, I do personal or private coaching as well. So we can do it via Zoom if you guys really, want to get more in depth, one-on-one. I can also do, we can block some time for when you're out in the field, and we can do it remotely too. So I like that we have the the mixed match here, in person and virtual. I love that.
Yeah, we found that because of COVID, we had to do Zoom, but now we're kind of past those years, and
Yeah.
I still want to see more people in the room. Hint, hint, everybody on Zoom. Getting back to that, in person, talking to each
Yeah.
other, camaraderie, joining together kind of stuff that we all love. But if does anybody else have any questions? Anybody from the room or anybody on Zoom?
One of the things I want to be able to do is start doing photography with others.
Yes.
Doing
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so the more
Andy,
people
just so you-
that want to go shoot.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, just so you guys know, any of the new members, if you remember on the membership form, there was an option there to check a box to be on the email list. And I put out that email list to the membership periodically, and I will put it out in the next week, so that you will have the contact information for those people in the club, who have said, yes, other people can contact me. We can go shoot, we can go do something, stuff like that.
Thanks, Carl.
Sure. Well, if we have nothing else, no other questions, and Todd, we very much appreciate you giving this presentation. I learned some things about Snapseed that I didn't know.
Yeah, nice.
And also, I've been looking at new phones recently, and the Samsungs have caught my eye. It's hard to find a decent phone with a decent camera that's under $500.
Yeah.
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 Plus,
Extremely hard.
I don't necessarily want to be locked into another 2 or 3 years with a service provider, to pay their monthly fee or whatever to pay it off slowly. I'd rather buy an unlocked phone and then activate it on whatever service I want. But anyways,
I agree with you. Well, you guys are welcome, and it was such an honor to be here. So thank you. And again, reach out if you guys have any questions or anything at all. I'm here. So
okay, we very much appreciate that. And like I said, if you can get that any extra info, I'll be more than happy to get it out to the membership. I will touch on one thing: the competition this month. It's in 2 weeks. Our topic is wabi sabi, and for those of you who read the page in the newsletter, you see I tried my best to explain what wabi sabi is all about. Give a couple of references to YouTube videos. If you missed it, the newsletter is up on the website. You can find it fairly quickly. And I think those things would be helpful to you to kind of understand what that topic is all about. It is a bit of an esoteric thing, something we really haven't done before. I think it's going to be a good competition. And our judge is going to be Trish Sangelo. I think she's the perfect person to be judging for that particular competition. For those of you who remember Trish, she's a teacher at Arapahoe, so she knows what she's doing. And I think she'll be a good judge for us. So, Terry, do you have anything else for us before we say bye-bye?
Well, I just want to thank again, Todd, for your very thorough explanations.
You're most welcome. I mean, we could go into a lot more detail, but it's only so much time. So
exactly.
I hope it was just I could build some more awareness and intrigue you guys to get a little bit more involved with your phone if you aren't already. So
I know I'll be using mine a lot more. So
yeah, love it.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Todd. And
Thank you, Todd.
we shall
happy shooting out there.
Yeah, we shall gather again in a couple of weeks with competition. So everybody have a good evening.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.